I never expected answering a Craigslist ad titled "Nude Art Models Wanted, No Experience Necessary" would become one of the most surreal, awkward, and strangely memorable days of my life. Honestly, I thought it was a joke or some weird scam at first. But there I was, standing in this dusty old art studio on the edge of downtown, trying to look casual while my brain did somersaults, trying to process the fact that I was about to strip down in front of a room full of strangers, and some stranger named Alex. Let me back up a bit. I'm not your typical model type. I'm a 26-year-old programmer who'd spent the last few months binge-watching true crime documentaries and eating sad microwave dinners alone. When the ad popped up, I was bored, broke, and desperate for some quick cash. Modeling nude wasn't exactly on my bucket list, but hey, the ad promised decent pay, a chill environment, and no awkwardness guaranteed. Spoiler, the last one was wildly optimistic. When I arrived, the place felt like an old converted warehouse, with high ceilings, tall windows letting in this harsh afternoon light, and canvas-covered walls splattered with paint. There was an awkward clamor in the air, mostly from a handful of other models nervously shifting around, and the smell of turpentine that hit my nose like a slap. The art teacher, or whatever you'd call him, was this grizzled older guy with wireframe glasses and a paint-stained smock, who explained quickly that today's class was about body forms, shadows, and the human figure in its purest essence. Then, just as I was trying to calm my nerves by reminding myself this was just a job, the instructor said, "Oh, and by the way, we've decided to work in pairs today. So, you two," he pointed to me and this other guy, "you're on." I looked up and locked eyes with Alex. Alex was probably in his early 30s, with this easy smile that somehow made him look both confident and totally approachable. He had this messy, dark hair a few days worth of scruff, and eyes that looked like they'd seen a lot but were still quietly curious. He gave me a nod that was halfway between "hang in there" and "we're in this weird situation together." We didn't say much then. Too much adrenaline and awkwardness buzzing through my veins. But I remember thinking, of all the people, why him? Not in a bad way, just like here we were, two strangers about to stand undressed side by side in front of a bunch of art students who probably didn't know what to make of us. So there we were, in this giant room filled with half-finished paintings and scattered charcoal sticks, about to strip down and pose as if it was the most natural thing in the world. The fact that we were paired up made it infinitely more bizarre. I kept stealing glances at Alex, wondering how he was handling this whole thing. Was he as nervous as I was? Did he do this before? Was he here just for the money like me? And then the moment came when the instructor clapped his hands and said, "All right, boys, take it off and get into position." The room went silent, except for the faint scratch of charcoal on paper. I took a deep breath, peeled off my shirt, and suddenly the warm light felt like a spotlighting every awkward inch of my body. Alex was beside me, and for some reason, that made it both terrifying and a little easier. I'm not sure if it was the vulnerability or the unexpected connection, but standing there undressed, side by side, in front of a room full of strangers, I caught Alex's eye again, and he gave me this small, almost imperceptible smile that told me maybe, just maybe, this wild, unexpected day was about to get a lot more interesting. And honestly, I had no idea where it was going to lead. So there we were, standing undressed side by side, and that tiny smile Alex flashed me somehow broke the last bit of ice. I had been bracing for embarrassment, humiliation, or at least some awkward silence, but instead, he gave me this look that said, "Hey, it's okay, we've got this." And honestly, that made all the difference. The instructor pointed to a spot near the center of the room and said, "Try a relaxed stance. Natural, unposed. You're the canvas for the artists, so just breathe and hold steady." Alex found a spot, and I mirrored him a few feet away. I was trying to ignore the chill creeping down my spine, not from the cold, but from the fact that a group of art students were quietly sketching every contour of my body like I was some exotic animal in a zoo. I caught Alex shifting slightly, and I realized he probably felt the same way. After a few minutes, the instructor called out, "All right, let's switch things up. Try a sitting pose." Something that shows off your lines. I glanced over at Alex, who looked more relaxed than I felt. You've done this before? I asked quietly. He smirked, glancing around to make sure no one else was paying attention. A couple times. Not this exact thing, though. It's weird, right? Yeah, like a weird kind of therapy, I said, trying to laugh it off. Except, undressed in front of strangers. He chuckled, and for a moment, the whole place felt less like a weird art experiment and more like two people just trying to get through something together. As we shifted into the new pose, I caught his gaze again. So, I whispered, "What made you answer that ad?" He paused, maybe weighing how much to share with a guy who'd just become his temporary nude buddy. Honestly, needed the cash. Got laid off last month, and this popped up. Figured, why not? You? Pretty much the same story, I said. Broke, bored, desperate. That somehow made me feel less alone. Because here we were, two guys undressed in front of a dozen people, bonded by the weirdest kind of honesty. After about an hour of holding poses, the instructor announced a break. We scrambled for towels and clothes, the air suddenly feeling cooler and more normal. Alex and I ended up sitting on one of the old wooden benches near the windows. The sunlight was softer now, slanting through the dusty glass and warming our skin. "You're good at this," I said to break the silence. "You looked comfortable." He shrugged, but there was a flicker of pride. "I guess it's just about getting used to the weirdness. You get past the embarrassment, and it's kind of freeing." "Freed? What?" I laughed. "I'm still trying to get past the I'm undressed in front of strangers part." He laughed too. "Give it time. Or maybe it's just easier with someone who's not staring at his shoes the whole time." Touché. We talked for a while, about random stuff, not nude modeling or job struggles. Movies, music, terrible dating stories. It was weirdly easy to talk to him. Like I was peeling back layers I didn't even know I had. When the break ended, we went back to posing, this time trying a more dynamic setup. The instructor asked us to interact, create a scene together. Alex and I glanced at each other, silently asking, "What the hell do we do?" He grinned, then reached out to gently rest a hand on my shoulder. "Like this?" I nodded, and soon we were striking poses that felt less like undressed statues and more like two people sharing a moment. The room felt warmer somehow, the artist's pencils moving faster, capturing something raw and real. At one point, I looked over and caught Alex staring at me. Not in a weird way, but like he was seeing me for the first time. Not just my body, but me. I swallowed hard, feeling this unexpected flutter in my chest, which was ridiculous. I barely knew the guy, and here I was, getting butterflies because of some accidental touch during a nude modeling gig. After the session ended, Alex and I dressed slowly, neither of us rushing to leave. Outside, the sun had dipped low, casting long shadows over the city. So, I said, half joking, "Think we make a good, undressed art model team?" He laughed, running a hand through his hair. "Definitely, though I'm not sure the world is ready for us." We walked out together, and I caught myself hoping this accidental pairing wasn't just a one-time thing. Maybe it was the vulnerability, or maybe it was just the weird chemistry. But something about that day made me think that sometimes the strangest situations bring the most unexpected connections. I had no idea what was next, or if this was just a weird story I'd tell friends at parties someday. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had found someone who got it. And honestly, that felt like enough. After that first day, I wasn't sure what to expect. Usually, when you meet someone in a weird, vulnerable situation, it either disappears as quickly as it came, or becomes one of those half-forgotten stories you laugh about later. But with Alex, it felt different. There was this strange mix of comfort and curiosity I hadn't felt in a while. The next week, I got a text from him out of nowhere. Just a simple, "Hey, you survived round 2? I guess the universe was messing with me, or maybe it just wanted to see if I was ready for another round of awkward, undressed modeling. "I'm here," I replied, trying to sound casual even though my stomach did that weird twist thing. When I got to the studio again, Alex was already there. This time, the room felt less intimidating. Maybe it was familiarity or just the fact that I wasn't completely alone in this. We chatted a bit before stripping down again, and it felt less like a performance and more like two people sharing something weird but genuine. During the break, we grabbed coffee at a nearby cafe, still awkwardly draped in towels and sweatshirts. It was the kind of place with mismatched chairs and indie music humming softly in the background. We ended up talking for almost an hour about everything and nothing. You ever think about how weird it is, getting paid to be undressed for strangers? I asked, stirring my black coffee. Alex laughed. All the time. But it's also kind of empowering, you know? Like you're reclaiming something that's usually private. He looked thoughtful for a second. Besides, it's nice to be seen, really seen, not just for what you do or how you look online. I realized I was nodding more than I'd expected. That hit a nerve. Like maybe behind all my cynicism, I craved that kind of connection too. Over the next few weeks, we kept showing up for the sessions. Sometimes our poses were ridiculous. Like that one time we tried to reenact some ancient Roman statue and ended up laughing too hard to hold still. Other days, it was quiet and serious, and I caught glimpses of something deeper in Alex's eyes. Moments of vulnerability that made me think he wasn't just here for the cash either. One afternoon, after a particularly long session, we lingered in the studio, the air thick with paint and charcoal dust. The others had left, and it felt like the whole place was ours. I don't usually stick around, I admitted, pulling on my shirt. Neither do I, Alex said, leaning against the windowsill. But I like this. Us. It's weird, but I like it. I wasn't sure if my heart was just playing tricks or if I actually wanted to hear more, so I just nodded. For some reason, we didn't say anything for a while. Just stood there, the silence between us less awkward and more electric. Finally, he broke it. Do you want to grab dinner? Not here, not undressed, just regular clothes and normal people? My mind scrambled for an excuse, but none came. Yeah, I'd like that. Dinner turned into coffee, and coffee turned into late-night walks through the city, talking about everything from our dreams to our fears. It felt more natural than I expected. With Alex, there was no pretense, no guessing game. Just two guys figuring it out as they went along. One night, after walking past a quiet park bench, he paused and said, "You ever feel like life just throws these random moments at you and somehow they end up meaning everything?" I looked at him, the streetlights casting soft shadows on his face. "Yeah, like that nude modeling thing?" He smiled, a little shy. "Exactly that." I laughed, but then my smile faded into something softer. I never thought I'd meet someone this way. But I'm glad I did. Alex stepped closer, and for a second, the world felt like it slowed down. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. "Me too," he whispered. That night, as we said goodbye, I realized I was no longer just the guy who showed up to a weird job for some extra cash. I was someone who wanted to see where this could go, even if it started with us standing undressed in a sketchbook. And honestly, that was kind of terrifying and incredibly exciting all at once. After that night, something shifted between Alex and me, even though nothing had been explicitly said beyond those few quiet words. It was like this invisible thread had been tied between us, something neither of us could ignore even if we wanted to. We kept meeting up for the modeling gigs, of course, but the dynamic changed. Posing nude side by side didn't feel quite as strange anymore. Instead, it felt like a shared secret, a weird little world we inhabited together for a few hours before stepping back into our regular lives. One afternoon, the instructor announced a special project, something about a gallery showcase at the end of the semester. We were to work on a piece that captured the essence of connection. Suddenly, the pose together concept wasn't just a strange exercise. It felt charged with meaning. Alex and I spent more time talking about what that meant to us. Sitting in that dusty studio, surrounded by canvases and unfinished pencils, we brainstormed ideas for a pose that would capture something real between us. What if we tried something symbolic? Alex suggested one day. Like, not just standing there, but actually interacting in a way that tells a story. I liked the idea. Maybe holding hands? Or one of us supporting the other? He nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, like vulnerability and support, kind of like what we're doing in real life. That hit me harder than I expected. We'd both been carrying some kind of weight. Me with my loneliness and self-doubt, him with things he hadn't shared yet. Somehow, this project was becoming more than just art. We started practicing outside of class, meeting at Alex's apartment, or mine. Sitting there fully clothed, we'd talk about our lives, our fears, the stuff we usually hid. And then, slowly, we'd try different poses, figuring out what felt authentic. One evening, after trying a pose where I leaned on Alex's shoulder, I realized the way his presence calmed me was unlike anything I'd felt before. I looked up, caught his eye, and the room seemed to shrink until it was just the two of us. Alex, I said softly, I don't want this to be just some art thing. I want to see where this goes. He hesitated, then took my hand in his. Me too, he whispered. It was terrifying and thrilling at the same time, admitting that out loud. But it felt right. As the semester went on, we grew closer, not just as models, but as something more. There were late-night texts, coffee dates, and moments when we'd catch each other staring and then laugh like teenagers caught in a secret. One weekend, we decided to escape the city for a bit. We rented a cabin by the lake, and for the first time I saw a different side of Alex. Relaxed, open, and full of stories about his childhood, his dreams, the things that shaped him. We spent hours talking on the porch, the sun dipping below the trees, and I realized how much I'd been craving connection like this. Someone who saw me, all of me, and wanted to be there anyway. That night, sitting by the fire, he reached for my hand again. I never thought a Craigslist ad would lead me here, he said, smiling. Neither did I admitted, but I'm glad it did. The week of the gallery showcase arrived faster than I expected. Standing beside Alex, both of us nude again in front of a crowd of people. I felt a strange confidence. This wasn't just about being vulnerable on a physical level. It was about trusting someone and being trusted in return. Our pose was simple but powerful. Alex supporting me as I leaned back, eyes closed, and him looking down with this mixture of protectiveness and affection. When the students started sketching, murmurs floated around about the emotion the piece captured. After the show, Alex and I slipped away from the crowd and found a quiet corner. He pulled me close, and I felt the steady beat of his heart against mine. This, he said, voice low, is just the beginning, isn't it? I smiled, feeling something warm spreading through my chest. Yeah, the weirdest beginning, but the best one I've had in a long time. We stayed there for a while, wrapped in each other's arms, knowing that whatever came next, we'd face it together. Looking back, I never thought a Craigslist ad for nude art models would change my life. But sometimes, the most unexpected moments lead to the most meaningful connections. And maybe that's the real art. The messy, beautiful, unpredictable stuff we make when we're brave enough to be seen. After the gallery show, things between Alex and me felt different, like we'd crossed some invisible line. We weren't just two awkward guys who happened to get undressed together in a sketch class anymore. We were, well, something else. Something that was just ours. But life, as it usually does, demanded its share of reality checks. A few days after the showcase, I was back at my apartment, scrolling through emails, when a message popped up from my old job. They wanted me back. A full-time offer. At first, I was thrilled. Steady paycheck, benefits, the whole package. But then I started thinking about what I'd left behind. The late nights talking with Alex, the strange comfort in being vulnerable, and the way I felt alive during those modeling sessions. I decided to text Alex. Got a job offer, I typed, then stared at the screen for a while before hitting send. His reply came back almost immediately. That's awesome. Proud of you. What are you thinking? I sighed. Not sure. Feels weird going back to the old grind. Feels like I'd be leaving all this behind. He replied, life's messy, but maybe it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can have the job and still have the weird art stuff. And me. That little "and me" hit me harder than I expected. It reminded me that this wasn't just some fling or experiment. It was real. We met up that evening at a small diner downtown, the kind with neon signs and vinyl booths. Over greasy fries and 2 sweet milkshakes, we talked about everything and nothing. "I want to support you," Alex said, his voice steady. "Whatever you decide, I'm here." I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Thanks. That means a lot." Over the next few weeks, I juggled the job offer, the modeling sessions, and this new relationship with Alex. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes the exhaustion hit me hard. Sometimes I worried about what people would think if they found out about the nude art model boyfriend. But Alex was patient, encouraging. And honestly, I started to believe that maybe I could have both. The stability and the spontaneity. The familiar and the thrilling. One night, after a long day at work, I showed up at Alex's place unannounced, still in my office clothes. He opened the door with that smile that made my chest tighten. "You look exhausted," he said, pulling me inside. "Yeah," I admitted, sinking onto his couch. "But I missed you." He sat next to me, fingers brushing mine. "I missed you too." We spent the evening talking about our days, our hopes, and the little things that made life feel less overwhelming. And when his hand found mine again, warm and steady, I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were moments of doubt, too. Like the time we had our first real fight. Over something stupid, really. I made a careless comment about how awkward it was to explain our situation to friends, and Alex snapped back. "Maybe if you weren't so worried about what everyone else thinks, we wouldn't be having this conversation," he said, eyes flashing. It stung. A lot. But it also made me realize how much I'd been holding back, afraid of judgment, afraid of being vulnerable in the real world, not just in a studio full of art students. We didn't solve everything that night, but we promised to try. To be honest, to face the messiness together. And slowly, that's what we did. We learned how to balance the parts of our lives that felt safe and the parts that felt risky. We kept modeling, but we also built something outside the studio. A connection that wasn't just about undressedness or art, but about two people genuinely wanting to be seen and accepted. One lazy Sunday, we found ourselves sprawled on my couch, the sunlight streaming through the windows. Alex looked over at me and grinned. "You know," he said, "I never thought a Craigslist ad would lead to all this." I laughed softly. Neither did I. But I'm really glad it did. He reached out, pulling me close, and in that moment, everything felt right. Messy, complicated, and beautiful all at once. Life doesn't always make sense. Sometimes it throws you into the deep end, undressed and vulnerable. But if you're lucky, you find someone who's willing to dive in with you. And that's exactly what I found with Alex.Months rolled on, and the rhythm of our lives settled into something that felt simultaneously familiar and new. I was back at my old job, the daily grind humming along in the background, but the edges of my world were sharpened by Alex's presence. We balanced the ordinary and the extraordinary, coding and coffees, deadlines and charcoal sketches, suits and sweatpants. One evening, after a particularly grueling day filled with back-to-back meetings, I found myself scrolling through my phone almost absent-mindedly when a notification popped up. The art studio was hosting a fundraiser event, and they wanted our group to model live again, this time as a featured act. More exposure, more crowd, more nerves. I wasn't sure I was ready for the spotlight, but the thought of standing undressed in front of a bigger audience alongside Alex gave me this odd mix of excitement and dread. I decided to text him right away. "Heard about the fundraiser gig? Want to do it together?" His reply was instant. "Hell yes. Scared out of my mind, but in." "You?" I laughed, feeling that familiar rush of adrenaline. "Same." The night of the fundraiser arrived quicker than I expected. The art studio was decorated with fairy lights, and the buzz of conversation filled the air. There were local artists, students, and people who just wanted to see the spectacle of live nude models. The crowd was bigger, and the stakes felt higher. Backstage, Alex and I paced in our robes, trying to calm down. I noticed his hand was shaking slightly, and I reached out to grasp it gently. "Hey," I said softly, "we've done this before. Together. We've got this." He nodded, squeezing my hand in return. "Yeah, together." When our turn came, the lights dimmed, and the room fell silent. We stepped out, the air thick with anticipation. Standing side by side, completely exposed, I felt my heart pounding. Not just because of the nerves, but because of him. We moved into position, weaving our bodies together in a pose that symbolized trust and connection. Alex's skin warmed against mine, and for a moment, the noise of the crowd faded into the background. It was just us, two guys who had found something real amid the chaos. As the artists' pencils danced across their papers, I caught Alex's eye. There was a softness there, a vulnerability that mirrored my own. Without thinking, I leaned in and whispered, "Thank you for being you." He smiled, just the slightest curve of his lips. "Right back at you." After the show, we stepped outside into the cool night air. The city was quiet, the streetlights casting long shadows on the pavement. We walked without direction, hands intertwined, savoring the silence. "I'm glad we did that," I said, breaking the quiet, "even if it scared the crap out of me." Alex chuckled. "Scared me too, but it felt alive." We stopped by a small park bench and sat down, the cool metal beneath us grounding and real. I looked over at him, feeling a surge of something unspoken, the kind of feeling that makes your chest tighten and your thoughts scatter. "Alex," I began, my voice barely above a whisper, "I've been thinking a lot lately about what this all means. Us. The modeling, the whatever this is." He turned to me, curiosity shining in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I guess I'm scared," I admitted, "that this might be just a phase. Something fun and strange that ends when the semester does. But I don't want it to end. I want to see where this goes, with you." There was a pause, filled only by the distant hum of the city. Then he reached out, tucking a stray lock of hair behind my ear. "I want that too. More than anything." That night, under the faint glow of the street lamps, we shared our first real kiss. It was tentative at first, unsure, but it quickly deepened into something urgent and full of promise, like two pieces finally clicking into place. In the days that followed, everything felt different. There was a new layer of intimacy between us, one that went beyond shared poses and awkward laughs. We were partners in the truest sense, holding each other up when life got heavy, celebrating the small victories, and dreaming about what might be. One Saturday morning, while we were lounging in Alex's apartment, I found myself nervously fiddling with my phone. "Hey," I said suddenly, "there's this art show opening next month. I was thinking maybe we could go. Together. As a date." He grinned, that same easy smile that had drawn me in from the start. "I'd like that." "Good," I said, feeling a warmth spread through me. "Because I think I'm falling for you." His eyes widened slightly, and then he laughed softly. Glad I wasn't the only one. We spent the rest of the day tangled up on the couch, talking about everything and nothing. Plans, fears, hopes, and the beautiful uncertainty of it all. Looking back, I realized that answering a Craigslist ad for nude art models was the last thing I expected to lead me here, into a messy, imperfect, wonderful kind of love. But maybe that's the point. Life's best moments often come when you're stripped down, vulnerable, and willing to take the risk. With Alex, I'm ready to take that risk, wherever it leads. Months passed, and what started as a strange coincidence, the two of us answering that Craigslist ad, had become something steady, something real. Alex and I weren't just the awkward nude art models anymore. We were partners navigating life's unpredictability, finding comfort in each other's presence. One quiet evening, we found ourselves back at the studio, but this time, not for a modeling session. The class had ended, the students gone, and the room was bathed in soft, fading sunlight. We sat on the floor amidst scattered charcoal and paint tubes, comfortable and fully clothed, no poses required. It felt like a small celebration of everything we'd been through together. Alex looked over at me and smiled. A simple, genuine smile that spoke volumes. "Remember that first day? how terrified we were. I laughed softly. Yeah, standing there undressed, trying not to look like a deer in headlights. He nudged me gently. And now look at us. Still awkward, but less frozen. I replied. We talked about how much had changed. Jobs, fears, and most importantly, how we'd learned to be vulnerable, not just in front of a room full of strangers, but with each other. That kind of trust was rare, and I felt lucky to have found it. Later that night, walking home hand in hand through the quiet streets, I felt a calmness I hadn't known in years. Life was messy and unpredictable, but with Alex beside me, it felt manageable. Worth it. When we reached my apartment, he turned to me and said, I don't know what the future holds, but I want to figure it out with you. I squeezed his hand, the warmth of his skin grounding me. Me too. It wasn't some grand declaration or perfect moment scripted in a movie. It was just two people, honest and open, ready to face whatever came next, together. And somehow, that felt like the best kind of art.